that's going to happen. And when it happens again, it's going to happen again. I don't care how many demonstrations you have, or how many filling stations you burn down. It's going to continue to happen. What you do, you cannot attract that kind of attention. Mothers have to teach their offspring. We're in a war. We are in a war. If you don't know where you are, you're in a war. You're in a war. Anybody spotted with a gun in a war is subject to die instantly, or with anything that looks like a gun, period. Christmas morning, I mean, you got cap guns and whatnot under the Christmas tree. You go outside with one of those guns and whatnot, you're subject to die. Every mother has to understand that. Every father. Otherwise, you're just going to keep crying over these funerals. You have to understand the kind of world you're in. You can't be nonchalant about that. Yes, you're not in Oz. You're in a hostile world. You're surrounded by hostility. You always wake up every morning knowing that you're in a war. That's the first order of business. We're not in peacetime. There's no such thing as that. We're in the middle of a war that never has been stopped. Mm-hmm. There's no such thing as peace being declared. People declare peace, but I'm talking about in a functional sense.
Yes, sir.
In reality, ever since the beginning of white supremacy, which is what I call the war, that's the only war that really counts. Mm-hmm, that's the war, that's the umbrella war of the entire planet. It's never stopped since the day that it was established. And everything that happens in a war is just a battle. And so the battles, the different battles are going on in different fronts. I mean, Ferguson and this and that, but the battles happen every day. Every time there's an encounter of conflict between one white person and a non-white person. Yes. Every encounter is a part of the war.
Yes, sir.
In fact, even the most, what you might call bland or peaceful encounters, it's an encounter because there's a war going on between white and non-white.
Yes, sir.
Worldwide.
Yes, sir.
It's never stopped.
Never.
I mean, and people say, well, I work with white people every day. We get along fine and all like that. You're in a war, whether you know it or not, because the white supremacists who are running everything have never said that we are declaring a peace. We are continuing the system of white supremacy. So just because there are individual people who are smiling and laughing and joking and whatnot, and they're going to football games together and waving pennants and all like that, doesn't say that there's not a war going on that is never stopped. So what we need is codification to wrap this war up. It's got to be accelerated, and that's what I try to write with my book, the textbook for victims of white supremacy. We have to accelerate the pace in ridding the world of racism and replacing it with a world of justice.
The world's economy grew by 6% last year. The African continent's economy shrank by 8%. Would it just be kinder not to tell Africa about the global economy?
I feel like we kind of have to act like everything's okay, Africa.
Make them feel good, keep them busy.
Right, we have to make them feel good because the whole country, the whole continent, it's like hospice.
To keep them in the dark. I mean, at some point, they're going to come asking questions about the global economy. They're going to ask, why is our economy different than the rest of the world's economy?
Once they learn that there is no famine in Kansas, no a civil war currently happening in New Mexico,
but
they'll be so disappointed and probably a little angry.
They feel like we can do business ventures with other continents. They don't realize nobody's going to trade oil for sticks.
You know what? The stick market over there is a complete free fall. You know, how many sticks does one person really need?
That's the debate that's going on there right now.
But the thing is, not telling Africa about the global economy will mean leaving the continent in charge of their own mining and drilling operations.
You can't do it. You can't do it.
Are they going to hurt themselves with all that equipment?
I think so. I think so. I wouldn't have a problem with introducing Fisher-Price mining tools to sort of like get them started, get them a sense of what the shapes and sounds are like.
Something with rounded
that
edges.
They can chew on, you know.
Some people say that television only increases their knowledge of what they're missing. Should we cut off electricity to Africa so that no one gets television?
As long as we're sending them things that show Western culture in a very basic, rudimentary kind of form, like Gunsmoke, Bonanza, Little House on the Prairie, so that they are really being able to see that we too are struggling.
The main thing is we don't want to rob them of their culture, as you said. We don't want to introduce plumbing and electricity and housing and doorknobs, because that's going to take away what it means to be inherently African.
It would be disrespectful.
It would make it much more difficult to exploit them.
Don't do anything, first of all, to attract the attention. You have to be like a soldier on a battlefield. If you're a soldier on a battlefield, because that's where you are. We are all on a battlefield. We are on a battlefield. We're not in La La Land. This is not Oz. This is not Shangri-La. We are on a battlefield. And when you look up and you see anybody who might be a suspected race soldier, even 6 blocks away, have your antenna up to not attract attention, just like you would on a battlefield. You're wearing a uniform. Your uniform is your black skin. And you're not going to attract the attention of a sniper. I mean, you know, there's an enemy soldier over there in the bushes somewhere waiting on somebody like you to come along. Look at it just that way. Yes. Don't do anything to attract attention, because that sniper is going to do what a sniper does. If anybody's been in the Army or seen movies about the Army, a sniper does what a sniper does. He takes your head off.
Yes.
No question. So you got to think like that. You are walking down the street with your black skin, you might attract the attention of a sniper.
Yes.
Think that way, 24/7, all your life. I say in order to solve a problem, you first have to recognize it is a problem, even though the problem is more powerful than I am. I can't walk around in jail saying I'm not a prisoner, because it makes me feel better. Many black people want to feel better instantly. That is natural. I fully understand that. But if you're a prisoner of war and you decide while you're a prisoner, you know what? I'm going to stop calling myself a prisoner. I'm going to say that I'm a king. I ain't no prisoner. I'm a king. And that warden, he's the prisoner. Look, he's on the other side of the bars. See? So he's my prisoner. I got him in jail. That's why he's here. He's right here with me. And so that makes me feel better. Sure, that's a big temptation. But that doesn't motivate you to tear down them prison walls. See what I mean? Because that's what I'm trying to get to do. And that takes some courage. And that takes admission of the truth that we have been beaten. We're not just walking around doing whatever we want to do. The black people of this planet, we have already been beaten. But we need to get some adrenaline going to fight against the thing that has conquered us, because it's what? Evil. And it needs to be replaced. We're not just trying to survive in this system. No, we are trying to dismantle the entire system, or we should be. And anytime that's not our objective, then we have no business doing anything.
I have to imagine that it takes a lot to freak out the people at TMZ Live. But Kanye West managed to do that because he said something that caused such an uproar yesterday. Even a TMZ employee had to call him out on it. Said, well, wait a minute. Take a look.
When you hear about slavery for 400 years, for 400 years, that sounds like a choice. Like, you was there for 400 years and it's all of y'all?
While you are making music and being an artist and living the life that you've earned by being a genius, the rest of us in society have to deal with these threats to our lives. We have to deal with the marginalization that has come from the 400 years of slavery that you said for our people was a choice.
Now, Kanye followed up by tweeting, "To make myself clear, of course, I know that slaves did not get shackled and put on a boat by free will. My point is for us to have stayed in that position, even though the numbers were on our side, means that we were mentally enslaved." Kanye, look, there were laws that were put in place that said we were less than human.
We make laws to support white superiority and to reinforce white superiority, and when you catch on to how it works, then we change the laws.
And so when you have laws that say you're less than human, they don't let you in a room. They don't let you in a door. You are meant to live in a different way, like an animal oftentimes. So you have to keep in mind that, you know, as we come around and fix these laws and say, listen, it's not okay for you to tell me I can't vote. I'm going to fight, and white folks got on board and everybody.
I want every white person in this room who would be happy to be treated as this society in general treats our citizens, our black citizens. If you, as a white person, would be happy to receive the same treatment that our black citizens do in this society, please stand.
We begin tonight with an update on a story we've been following all week. Hannah Stevenson, the 16-year-old girl from Detroit, accused of stabbing a classmate to death with a screwdriver last month. At her arraignment this afternoon, Hannah received the harshest possible sentencing from the judge. She will be tried as a black adult.
Due to the extreme and violent nature of this crime, this court finds it fitting to try the defendant as an African American. Henceforth, you will be referred to for the jury by the name Quandell Brown.
Once the trial begins next week, all courtroom images of Hannah will depict her as a 300-pound muscular black man, and jury members will be instructed to imagine her as such.
We're going to do our best to make sure that Hannah is treated with the sympathy and sensitivity that she, as a photogenic white girl, deserves.
This is America. Nobody deserves to be treated as a black man.
Now that Hannah has been ruled black, the court has instructed local media to assume she's guilty, and the police have retroactively charged her with assaulting her arresting officer. Hannah's 24 character witnesses have been replaced by a single crack addict who goes by the name of Skaggs.
What's going on?
Put your hands up. I said put your hands up.
What'd I do?
Put your hands up now.
What'd I do? What'd I do?
Turn around. Walk to the car. Turn around.
Put your hands up.
Walk to
This
the
is
car
bullshit,
now.
man. I didn't. Why can't I know what I did?
Shut up.
If I were you, I'd just do as you're told.
ID?
It's in my pocket.
Get out, man. Stay right there. Don't move.
18 Alpha 3, code 6 on 211.
Look, there's nothing going on here, so why don't you all just please go back in the bar?
Male white, brown, and blue, 6 foot.
What's the matter? You fucking cops got nothing better to do! Hey, fuck you, cop.
He's okay.
Sir, you want to step over here, please? Sorry for the inconvenience. You fit the description of a suspect who's committed several bank robberies around the neighborhood.
Inconvenience me? That's what you call it?
You got a problem? Take it up with my sergeant.
I didn't do nothing. That's my problem.
Hey, hold that. You want to go to jail, huh? You want to go
This
to
is
jail?
bullshit, man. This is bullshit.
Leave the man alone. Look, you want to go to jail, huh? Is that it? Is that what you want to happen? Everything is over, so I suggest you get in your car and go home now.
Leave him alone.
Get back in the bar, please. Everything is fine.
We're sick of this shit.
Yeah! Police! Fuck the police!
That shit ain't right.
Get the fuck out of here!
All right.
You didn't understand the directions. If you white folks want to be treated the way blacks are in this society, stand.
To my beautiful wife's great generosity of spirit and all the good work for children she's dedicated herself to, but mostly to the fact that she has patiently endured me for so long. To Megan.
Thank you, darling. And to all of you and your support. Thad's being co-chair has made an enormous difference. We just found out that if we complete the wing on time, the city will float a pond.
Mrs. Thomas, you're sounding more and more like Thad.
I take it as a compliment.
That's not a gift, Megan. That's a curse.
You know, whatever the deal is, Thad's not about to lose a dime. Just look at the Chadway Shopping Center.
What are you talking about? I took a huge loss on that. 18 months and $6 million to build, and then 3 months later, they burned it to the ground. Now, what do you call that?
A housewarming?
Oh, stop. Thad, what about all those poor people? Obviously, they're the ones who really lost.
What's obvious, my darling, is that there's something inherently wrong when a people historically and repeatedly burn out of their community.
Next time, would you like them to switch community?
Wait a minute. Oh, come, listen, inherently wrong. What does that mean? What, are we politely talking genetics now?
I'm not politely talking anything. White people are genetically inferior, or they're culturally crippled, or they're socially deprived. All those arguments mean absolutely nothing. The bottom line is a very simple question. Are these a people?
Nobody's standing here. That says very plainly that you know what's happening. You know you don't want it for you. I want to know why you're so willing to accept it or to allow it to happen for others.
Mainstream media is never going to address the needs of the people. Mainstream media, as we all know, has been purchased, been bought off, it's been usurped by the demands of corporations. We cannot look to mainstream media to solve our problems. If anything, they're one of the leading causes, one of the leading exacerbators of the problem.
So when we talk about propaganda, we got to recognize something, that most of the misinformation you get comes to you from 5 companies: AOL, Time Warner, and Walt Disney, Bertelsmann, Viacom, and Rupert Murdoch's News Corporation. 5 families control all information. All your music, all your movies, all your DVDs, all your TV shows, all your empires and scandals, and all of that come from 5 groups. The 5 families, baby. That's why all the news is the same. It's all the same. And the leaders of those 5 families all sit at the table of the Bilderberger family. The Bilderberg is the Council of 300. It's the organization of the white supremacist power structure. The 300 most important white men and women sit around that table and they dictate destiny for the world. And they're going to do that till black folks stand up and decide to dictate destiny for ourselves. Talking about a free press. Ain't no such thing as a free press. You know what they do to reporters who tell the truth? Your ass end up dead. Anybody saw the movie Kill the Messenger, came out last month? About the white reporter from the San Jose Times who uncovered the fact that the CIA was selling crack in the black community? Gary Webb. And they blew his damn brains out. Ain't no damn free press. If they ever catch you telling the truth about something white folks doing, you are out of here. I'm working on a newspaper too, the Umar Johnson newspaper, that we're gonna put out. I'm gonna have an exposed white supremacy page. Any type of racism that you go through, you wanna send it to me, I'm gonna put it right in that paper. You went into the supermarket and they followed your ass around the whole time you was shopping, they getting exposed. That's right, we gonna expose all their ass. Chinese store and all that. Expose them dirty ass chicken wings, expose them. You know damn well there ain't no chicken you eat. What chicken you say look like this? That's a damn hand with finger that you talking about, that's a chicken. Have you ever noticed license and inspection never go to the Chinese store? Have you ever seen the city inspect a Chinese store for health? Has anybody? Nope. But let you open up a black restaurant in Reno. They be out there every day talking about you ain't got enough smoke alarms. You need an extra back door, your stove too small. You ain't got enough roach traps. They be all up in there. But they don't bother the Chinese store. $500 billion is what they spend on mind control. Can anybody tell me why the United States government spends $500 billion on media? You know why they spend $500 billion on media? Because white folk are a minority in the world, and the best way you can control the majority being a minority is you got to control the way they think, and that's the purpose of media. You stop people from going to war. Anybody ever heard of the Rockefeller Board of Education? Did y'all know the Rockefellers had their own board of education? Oh yes. Why would a family that's into global investment in oil start a school board when they ain't got no damn schools? Because the Rockefellers said if we want to control the world, we got to control the textbooks that the schools use. We have to make sure we know what they teaching the children, or otherwise they might teach the children to take our power. Why do you think your children don't get classes on economics, classes on real estate, classes on multinational investment?
They're looking at you as a cog in the wheel, in the machine. Yeah. You're being trained, not educated.
Classes on multinational investment. It's set up like that you don't get taught big business in school. This is how they set it up. You get taught how to work for white folks. And that's why the schools are closing down now. Because they don't need black workers no more. Don't y'all got schools closing down around here? Oh yeah, they shutting public schools down, baby. Ain't gonna be no public education in the next 50 years because they don't need no black workers in the next 50 years. They got the Mexicans here to do that. You're done. If you don't create an economy for yourself, you will die. You can pray all you want, march all you want, vote all you want. America no longer needs the black man's labor. America no longer needs the black woman's labor. That's why you can go to college and still not get no job, because they don't need you. This is the reality. Public schools were started to teach you how to read, how to write, and how to count so you can go work for Chevy. Go work for Walmart, go work for McDonald's, go work for the factory, but they done sent all those factories to second and third world nations, and the ones that's still here to give them to the Mexicans and Latinos. You ain't got no damn job. So what is the purpose of public school now? The purpose of public school now is to prepare black girls for poverty and black boys for jail. The new racism is to act like there is no racism. Intelligence testing. William Stern, a German Jew who was ultimately kicked out by Adolf Hitler, but he worked with Adolf Hitler for a while. And it was him who gave Adolf Hitler the science of intelligence testing that he made up to justify the extermination of European Jews. I don't know if y'all know this, but when they did the research on the Nazi exterminations, the Holocaust, most of the Jews they killed had an IQ test in their folder. They used the IQ test to justify extermination, just like the United States used the IQ test to justify sterilization of black folks. Half the states in this country did not let you have children or get married if your IQ score was below a certain point. America didn't copy Hitler. Hitler copied America. The whole Nazi science program was born right here. And Hitler was financed from Wall Street by European Jews. Why is that interesting? Because the first thing white folk want to tell black folk, black people sold you into slavery. Don't get mad at us, because it was your own people who sold you. Oh, really? Why I ain't heard nobody tell the white Jew man yet that it was your own people who financed your Holocaust, so stop complaining about it. Black people need to get over slavery. Why y'all keep talking about slavery? Oh, really? Ain't nobody told the Jews that. They come out with a Holocaust movie every month. Look at the double standard. I didn't participate in your Holocaust, European Jew, but you damn sure participated in mine. You was the primary financier of most of the slave ships. You was the primary financier of most of the insurance companies that insured my body on arrival. But I helped you, European Jew. In World War II, it was a group of black soldiers known as the Liberators who went into the heart of Berlin and freed the European Jews from the worst concentration camps. I helped y'all. You hurt us. Don't ask me to cry no damn tears for you. Because you own the media companies that's putting out negative images of black men. You own the record companies that's putting out negative images of black folk. You own the magazines and the newspapers. Don't you dare say I gotta cry a tear for you. I ain't got no tears for nobody but black folk. And I don't hate nobody else either. But my love is for mines. My love is for mines. I'm unapologetically African, and I'm gonna die that. I'm gonna die that. And you better die that too. The time has come for us to stop feeling insecure about being proud of who we are.
Propaganda is essential to any military campaign. Black people tend not to understand propaganda. And the reason why we tend not to understand propaganda is because the propaganda channels, the mediums, the conduits, the radio, the television, the newspaper, we tend to just treat as forms of entertainment. We don't see them as military strategy. When there's a movie depicting black people in a negative image, when there's caricatures in the newspaper making jokes about black people, we tend to just see it as political entertainment. We don't see it as laying the foundation before the storm. That's exactly what they did in Wilmington. You always seek to create a context that allows your military campaign to be acceptable. There's always context. You study Adolf Hitler in Nazi Germany. He had a propaganda campaign that lasted over a year before he began to physically oppress the Jews. He had to make sure that the national mindset had been conditioned to accept the extermination to come. In Wilmington, North Carolina, the same exact thing happened years before Nazi Germany. Through the magazines, through the radio, through word of mouth, through stage play, they created negative images of black people in the minds of white folk in case there were any liberals who would have been against what they were going to do. They were slowly able to reform their opinion by constantly repeating negative information about the target population. See, the one thing about the brain that we got to understand is the creature of repetition. Whoever has the most access to the brain rules the brain. It's all about volume, not quality. The more you tell people that a certain group of people are no good, the more you show images, the more you show sounds, song, poem, dance, projecting negative information about a people, sooner or later the subconscious begins to get conditioned automatically, because you can't turn off the subconscious to what it sees and what it hears. Sound and image, you cannot stop it except to stay away from it. So sound and image are critical to any propaganda campaign because they help lessen the defenses of anyone who may be against what you're trying to do. It's the same thing happening right now. There is a direct assault on the image of the black man and woman internationally. So when mass incarceration, homicide takes place, nobody cares what's happening to black folk because they've already been conditioned to believe that these people are better off dead anyway. So propaganda is the first stage of military warfare. Right now, we're being set up for another extermination campaign. It's going to be worse than what went on in Wilmington, Tulsa, Charleston, Rosewood. It's going to be worse. Whenever the propaganda gets worse, then you know the extermination is going to be that much worse, because you see how far the exterminator had to go in order to condition the people to prepare them for the carnage to come.
He certainly is one of the world's outstanding experts on the subject of Soviet propaganda and disinformation and active measures. When the Soviets use the phrase ideological subversion, what do they mean by it?
Ideological subversion is the process which is legitimate, overt, and open. You can see it with your own eyes. All you have to do, all American mass media has to do, is to unplug their bananas from their ears, open up their eyes, and they can see it. There is no mystery. There is nothing to do with espionage. I know that espionage intelligence gathering looks more romantic. It sells more deodorants through the advertising, probably. That's why your Hollywood producers are so crazy about James Bond type of thrillers. But in reality, the main emphasis of the KGB is not in the area of intelligence at all. According to my opinion and opinion of many defectors of my caliber, only about 15% of time, money and manpower is spent on espionage as such. The other 85% is a slow process which we call either ideological subversion or active measures, активные мероприятия in the language of the KGB, or psychological warfare. What it basically means is to change the perception of reality of every American to such an extent that despite of the abundance of information, no one is able to come to sensible conclusions in the interests of defending themselves, their families, their community and their country. It's a great brainwashing process which goes very slow, and it's divided in 4 basic stages. The first one being demoralization. It takes from 15 to 20 years to demoralize a nation. Why that many years? Because this is the minimum number of years which requires to educate 1 generation of students in the country of your enemy, exposed to the ideology of the enemy. In other words, Marxism-Leninism ideology is being pumped into the soft heads of at least 3 generations of American students without being challenged or counterbalanced by the basic values of Americanism, American patriotism. The demoralization process in the United States is basically completed already. For the last 25 years. Actually, it's overfulfilled because demoralization now reaches such areas where previously not even Comrade Andropov and all his experts would even dream of such a tremendous success. Most of it is done by Americans to Americans, thanks to lack of moral standards. As I mentioned before, exposure to true information does not matter anymore. A person who was demoralized is unable to assess true information. The facts tell nothing to him. Even if I shower him with information, with authentic proof, with documents, with pictures, even if I take him by force to the Soviet Union and show him concentration camp, he will refuse to believe it until he is going to receive a kick in his fat bottom. When a military boot crashes then he will understand, but not before that. That's the tragic of the situation of demoralization. So the next stage is destabilization. This time, subverter does not care about your ideas and the patterns of your consumption. Whether you eat junk food and get fat and flabby, it doesn't matter anymore. This time, and it takes only from 2 to 5 years to destabilize a nation, what matters is essentials: economy, foreign relations, defense systems. And you can see it quite clearly that in some areas, in such sensitive areas as defense and economy, the influence of Marxist-Leninist ideas in the United States is absolutely fantastic. I could never believe it 14 years ago when I landed in this part of the world that the process will go that fast. The next stage, of course, is crisis. It may take only up to 6 weeks to bring a country to the verge of crisis. You can see it in Central America now. And after crisis, with a violent change of power, structure and economy, you have so-called the period of normalization. It may last indefinitely. Normalization is a cynical expression borrowed from Soviet propaganda. When the Soviet tanks moved into Czechoslovakia in '68, Comrade Brezhnev said, now the situation in brotherly Czechoslovakia is normalized. This is what will happen in the United States if you allow all these schmucks to bring the country to crisis, to promise people all kind of goodies and the paradise on earth, to destabilize your economy, to eliminate the principle of free market competition, and to put a big brother government in Washington, D.C., with benevolent dictators like Walter Mondale, who will promise lots of things, never mind whether the promises are fulfillable or not. Your leftists in the United States, all these professors and all these beautiful civil rights defenders, they are instrumental in the process of the subversion only to destabilize the nation. When their job is completed, they are not needed anymore. They know too much. Some of them, when they get disillusioned, when they see that Marxist-Leninists come to power, obviously they get offended. They think that they will come to power. That will never happen, of course. They will be lined up against the wall and shot. But they may turn into the most bitter enemies of Marxist-Leninists when they come to power. And that's what happened in Nicaragua. You remember most of these former Marxist-Leninists were either put to prison or one of them split, and now he's working against Sandinistas. It happened in Grenada when Maurice Bishop was already a Marxist. He was executed by a new Marxist who was more Marxist than this Marxist. Same happened in Afghanistan when first there was Taraki, he was killed by Amin, then Amin was killed by Babrak Karmal with the help of KGB. Same happened in Bangladesh when Mujibur Rahman, very pro-Soviet leftist, was assassinated by his own Marxist-Leninist military comrades. It's the same pattern everywhere. It's divided in 4 basic stages: demoralization, destabilization, crisis, normalization. They will be lined up against the wall and shot, I
want to say a couple of things, and I really don't want you all to miss me before we get ready to go. My wife was here, and she was the president of the Association of Black Psychologists a couple of years ago, and she was responsible for taking about 500 people, including about 300 black psychologists, to Ghana, West Africa, for their national conference. The reason I point that out is because I want to say a couple of things, and I'm going to go out of bounds with what I have to say relative to what we've been talking about. First of all, I grew up in Brooklyn, and I saw, looking back on my life, I saw about 30 of my friends die, you know, getting shot, overdosing on drugs, any number of things that took them off the planet, you know, beautiful brothers. So as I started to become more conscious, I looked around, I started asking this very important question. I think the most important question that I ask myself and that you can ask yourself is why? And I wanted to find out what was going on. So I began to change. I began to examine everything. I don't like to use the word critically, but I started to really check things out. So I went through a very, very serious change. I mean, serious change. And what my wife and I did, we decided that we were going to drop out from the system. We delivered 2 of our 3 children at home using midwives. She didn't take any medication. We didn't go to a doctor. She talked me into doing that, but it was a beautiful experience for me to be there to help deliver our children. They were born, by the way, 2 years apart on the same day, and our oldest daughter helped us deliver our children. We also changed our diets. We saw the hospital system was killing our people, so we changed our diets. We have been vegan for about 30 years. That means no meat at all in any form, no dairy products, no sugar, no white flour, the same thing that Dr. Whitaker talked about. Because we understood that we were in a war, and I want to emphasize that to you. We are in a war. We left New York and went to North Carolina, and really it's on her again, we decided that we were not going to go in debt because the new form of slavery was economic slavery. Well, we got some land, we were very fortunate, and we built our own house. We built a log house. It took us 16 months. We worked night and day, every day for the 16 months. And she was out there with a chainsaw in the cold and the rain, and we worked and we built the house so we would not have to give white people any money. I taught on the college level for a number of years at a so-called black college, and I'm down against black colleges. I'm going to tell you straight up, because some of the madness that's going on in these schools. But what I want to say is that there are 2 things going on the planet now. One is that when white people came to us and said, we're going to free you, we're going to emancipate you from the plantation, what they did was extended the boundaries of the plantation and made it an international plantation. Made us think that we were free. In addition to that, they made every white every white person on earth a plantation master or owner.
The root of most Black people's collective internalized pain stems from the fact that we know we are being held captive on a bubble world plantation. We know we are strategically being held to made up laws by creatures who have put themselves as the authority figures over our whole existence on this planet. So we know we are being held in confinement.
So there are two things in operation. We are in an international prison. It's not just in America, but everywhere we go, our people are dying. So the things that are in operation on this planet is that white people want to kill us. I want you to understand that. They want to kill you. And it has nothing to do with what the kind of degree you have, what kind of car you have, what kind of title you have, what fraternity you belong to, what religion you belong to. They want to kill you because that is part of their plan. There are any number of reasons why they want to do that. I'm not going to waste my time trying to figure out why they want to kill us.
Hey everyone, I basically want to come and do another short video showing you all exactly what I displayed to my class, the Punnett Square. Before I get into that, it needs to be first understood that the oldest individual to ever be found on the face of the earth was a woman given the name of Lucy, who was African. She was found in South Africa. This literally ended all arguments that anyone on the face of the earth did not come from African people. That means that African people are the father and the mother of the entire universe. Now, the Punnett Square. This is what a Punnett Square is. This is what we use in science to display genes and genotype. This right here is 5 groups of people, the 5 groups of people of color. You have the black, who is the African, the brown, who is considered the Middle Eastern, the red, who is considered the Native American or the Latin. You have the yellow, who's considered the Asian, and the white, who's considered the European, just to keep it simple. Now, these 2 big X's display the African, because we are genetically dominant. Anyone that doesn't understand that black people are genetically dominant is a person that has first been miseducated on themselves. We've been taught to think that we're inferior, but the science behind it is all black people are genetically dominant. Now, the 2 small X's are white people, recessive. White people are a recessive gene. That means that when they have children with a black man or a black woman, all of the children will have the recessive allele masked by the dominant allele. So when you look at Thandie Newton from Norbit, she has a British father and a Nigerian mother, but she still displays blackness because blackness is dominant. When you look at Barack Obama, who has a Kenyan father and a white mother, he will still be black because black is the masker of his white. It's literally dominant. The same thing goes for Tiger Woods. So literally, anytime a black has a child with a brown, the child is now black. Black has a child with a red, the child is black. Yellow, white, the exact same thing. This is where racism comes in. White people are literally 16 to 18% of the entire world population, making them the minority. The thing about whiteness is it's a recessive gene. So you literally have to have 2 white parents in order to be white. So when Dylan Roof says you're raping our women, what does he mean by that? He means that anytime a white woman has a child with a black man, those children are not white anymore, because in order to clarify as white, you have to be 100% white. Well, to the people that are already the minority, it is extremely important to hold on to the genetics that they already have, because their genetics are already recessive. So think about prison. Why are so many black men are in prison? Because if you're in prison, what are you not doing? You are not having children. Why does it seem so many black American men are turning homosexual? So many black women are lesbians. Because if you are lesbian homosexual, you are not what? You are not procreating your race. The basis of racism is white people understanding that if we do not kill black people at all times, that they will eventually kill us. So when you look at black men being pulled over by oftentimes European police officers, shot and killed for no reason, is because they subconsciously understand that if I do not kill him, that he's going to kill my children with his genetics. Racism is not simply somebody hating you because, you know, you got this fly car, because they don't want to see you do well. White people do not want to go extinct. So in order for them not to go to extinct, they created a system called racism, white supremacy, in order to kill black people. Black people because we show the strongest genetic variability. So when you go to Africa, you're going to see a lot of different diseases that target black people because we have got to diminish your numbers if we have a chance of living and surviving. This is the reality of racism. So we've been taught to hate our skin. We've been taught to hate our lips. We've been taught to hate our wide noses. We've been taught to hate everything about blackness because really we're dominantly strong. Think about Venus and Serena Williams dominating in tennis. Think about Tiger Woods dominating in golf. Think about all of the amazing, basketball players that have played in the NBA, amazing NFL players. The majority of those individuals, if not always, are people of African descent, are black people. That's not coincidental because we are genetically strong. We are genetically stronger than any individual on the entire face of the earth, and the European knows that. So if he wants to live for the next 200 years and have blue-eyed, blonde-haired children, then that means, unfortunately, he has to kill us. Understand, overstand, wake up, love being black. Bye.
They want to do, and they want to do it in many different ways. Psychological, economic, cultural, spiritual, social, in biological, chemical, electromagnetic. They want to kill you. But they also want to make money in the process of your death. Now, I saw a brother when I was coming in, he was smoking a cigarette. So now he's going to kill himself, but they're going to make money off of his death process. The other thing is that they want us to, if they don't kill us, like they tried to kill the brother by beating him up in New Orleans, if they don't kill us that way, or shooting like they killed the brother in Cincinnati, or like they killed Malice Green in Detroit, or like they killed Greenwich up in Pittsburgh, if they don't come out right and kill us straight, they want to get us to kill ourselves. Now, these are the only two operations on the planet. The other thing is that there's only one nigger on the planet. I never use that word. This is the first time I've used it. I don't even think that word. But there's only one nigger on the planet. And the nigger that's on the planet is the one that is destroying the water, the one that's polluting the air, the one that is exploiting people and resources. And the only nigger on the planet is the white man and the white woman.
So, back to this. We are being held on this bubble world plantation. But people say, and most black people tend to say, what is she talking about? Slavery days are over. Remember, they freed us. They freed the slaves. So if they freed the slaves, what most people should have been thinking, what most black people it should be obvious. The answer is obvious. When they freed the slaves, physically, did those slave masters, did they forfeit the power structure? Did they forfeit the land? Did they forfeit any of that? Who in their right mind would?
Government is based on this illusory and false concept called authority. People think certain people are authorities, that they actually have rights that other people don't have. The right to command, compel, coerce, and tell people, this is right, this is what you're going to do, and if you disagree, I have the power to actually compel, coerce, or constrain you against your will. If you're not harming anybody, even in the taking of that action. Authority is based upon an equal illusion that is called jurisdiction. Now, if we break down this word, it comes from the Latin noun. Jurisdiction comes from Latin, jus juris. Jus juris in Latin means law. Juris is the possessive case. And the Latin verb dictere. So, jus dictere, juris dictere, jurisdiction. Okay? Dictere means to say or to speak. Thus, jurisdiction literally means to say what the law is. Or in other words, we get to make up what the law is. The law is not something that exists in nature and is based upon right and wrong and truth and morality. No, we get to make it up. We're God. We get to say what's right and what's wrong. And therefore, since we make the law, we're the owners of these people. They're in our jurisdiction. You know, we own them. And we get to make up what they're allowed to do and what they're not allowed to do. Authority ultimately is an illusion, again, of a diseased mind, a diseased psyche, based entirely in violence and built upon the erroneous and dogmatic belief that some people are masters who have the moral right to issue commands and others are slaves who have a moral obligation to obey the commands of the masters. I don't care what you want to call it. You can euphemize it any way you want. I call it what it really is. Slavery. That's what it really is. Doesn't come down to anything else. You can call it whatever you want, euphemize it, try to make it sound as nice or as pleasant as possible. It's all one thing. It's called slavery. It's always immoral, and it needs to be ended. That's it. And we have to develop the knowledge and the courage to end it. The knowledge, the care, and the courage to end it. The belief in the legitimacy of, quote, authority, this illusory nonsense notion, is the belief in the legitimacy of slavery. Anybody who believes in that authority is legitimate and government is legitimate, whether they want to admit it or not, or know it or not, or understand it or not, I don't care what they believe. They are advocating the legitimacy of slavery. That's not my belief. I don't care who calls that my belief. I'm just looking right into the camera and saying this. Because I know the people in this room know that that's not my belief. I'm telling anybody who's listening to this, that's not my belief. That's eternal truth. Eternal truth. Okay? You believe in these concepts, you are a supporter of slavery. The end. That's how it really is. Not because I said so. Because that's how it really is. Okay? And that's called mind control. For somebody to believe that slavery is legitimate, you gotta be under deep mind control. You gotta be either that or a sick, psychopathic, absolute piece of garbage. Okay? One of those things or another is true if you believe in those concepts. And again, I'm not afraid to tell it to somebody right to their face like that. I don't care. I'm not here to serve truth, make friends, or be liked. I'm here to tell people what the truth. I'm not here to serve human beings, make friends, or be liked. I am here to serve the truth. Whether it will be accepted is not up to me. I'm doing what I'm charged to do by creation. Okay? Whether it's accepted is somebody else's karma, not mine. Ultimately, authority is the idea that man can become God and through, quote, jurisdiction, dictate the law. What the dark occultists of this world, who are behind ostensible governments in the world, they set up all of these institutions as temples, right? What this sick psychopathic priest class ultimately believes is they're going to become God. We're going to turn natural law on top of its head, and we're going to rule in hell. That's it. We're going to rule in hell.
But they're going to say, oh, you can go. You is free now. We is free now. We physically free now. But why are we still being ruled over? So it would be obvious, it's apparent, right? That they did not forfeit that stronghold over you, that power structure over you, that programming. You were never even detoxed of the programming back then, back when some of our ancestors were held as slaves physically, and only physically freed. And see, the thing is, oppression always changes form. Enslavement always changes form. So how is anyone free when there is a such thing as authority and a such thing as made up laws? I never believed in the law because why is it always directly against the laws of nature? You really think it's a part of the laws of nature that we, the indigenous people of the planet, the people with the most connection to their eternal source and to the planet and to the sun, is supposed to be dominated and ruled over by other creatures that are not inherently more powerful than you? They had to rule over you through spooking you with made-up gods, then implemented. You know, the more black people were given this freedom, this illusory freedom, this illusionary freedom, they keep putting more laws on us, don't they? They keep putting all these made-up laws on us, don't they? You know, so freedom should come with, okay, there's no such thing as a power structure. There's no such thing as these creatures being the authority figures, being the authority. Freedom means there's no such thing as authority. That means I am not held to this system. See, this is what I'm saying. This is a metaphysical thing. This is being fueled and held intact through majority believing it and through active participation in it. So I have yet to even verbally, all of my life, I have yet to even verbally see the collective of black people say, no, there's no such thing as authority. You know, most people tend to think that's so extreme. Like, she's being extreme. What does she mean there's no such thing as authority? Without authority, what will we do? How will we function? So some other creatures who were born and breeded into this existence, just like you, born into this dimension just like you actually think another being who is on this planet just like you, and we are all not connected. And I'm going to tell you that right now. People are supposed to maybe coexist on the planet, but there's no such thing as these creatures invading, coming in and saying, we are your rulers. We got some laws for you. We got some regulations for you to follow. We are in charge. There's no such thing. So how could any people in their right mind believe that anybody else who is here on the planet just like you is your authority? There's no such thing. That's what people have to learn. There is no such thing. But I know most people, they got that embedded fear. They got that fear frequency. They got that fear fragrance. And that is this is a generational thing. Most black people do raise their kids to be very fearful, to be very obedient. And we know what that is a continuation of, what that continued from. That continued from those slave days. So that was passed on. Keep your head down. Be obedient. Obey your superiors. Listen to authority. Obey orders. Do not make waves. We know where that sort of mentality stems from. And most black people are still raising their children to be that way. And that's why we have a population of black adults who function that way, still viewing these other creatures who are here just like us on the planet as your authority figures. It's like, no, they're here. They don't know how to act. They want to rule over everything. They want to invade all the land, sit up there and make up made-up rules and implement those rules and force those rules on everyone. So it is apparent that they do not know how to act and they need to be quarantined. So that's my deepest thoughts. Anytime you have any breed of creatures who can't be peaceful, they actually want to invade and bombard themselves on other people who have the right to live a free existence on this planet. It would seem like those are the creatures that need to be locked up, quarantined, wiped out, something. It seems like they collectively need to be somewhere else on the planet. Because it seems like black people are just very scared of these creatures. That they're your rulers, they're your superiors, they're your authorities. No, they are not. They are not. And that's why they gotta rule through violence. They gotta rule through threats. Like, if you don't obey our laws, we're going to lock you up. We're going to bomb the cities. We're going to throw in some tear gas. We're going to mace the children and mace the adults and mace the elders. You know, they got their guns, their bombs. Why would you need all that? Why are people trying to force people to stay in this made up construct of oppression? And they maintaining it through violence. They're trying to maintain that power because they know it's fragile and they know it's made up. So they're trying to maintain that through violence, through the police force, through the military, through the FBI. You gotta do if you gotta do all that stuff, you know you're not dominant. If you have to do all of that to try to contain the majority, why would you do that? Why can we not be in peace and exist on the planet and do our own thing? Why? That's what I don't like. That's what I just do not like about sadistic creatures. It's just made up. It's all made up. So, I'm catching my breath because I'm hot. I'm in Vegas, so it's hot. But anyway, it's just crazy. So we're going to see a lot of what they call civil unrest. We're going to see a lot of little uprisings all around the world, all around the cities in this country here in the U.S. We're going to see a lot of uprising. And as they do, they quarantine the cities and all that. They don't want to let no media in because they know they're doing wrong. Terrorizing the people, terrorizing the black people. And the thing is, we got so much energy. We We're not meant to be ruled over. We know good and well we're just trying to live our lives and go about our business, not even messing with them. But anytime you got destructive creatures on the planet who are bombarding everyone, they're bombarding everyone. They have to be invaders. They just have to do it. They just have to try to do it. And they do it. And you let them do it. Anytime you got destructive creatures like that, you already know things is just gone. You already know it's not right. You already know it's not right. You already know it's not right. And they know they ain't right. But the question is, why do we as a collective continue to let them do it? I have never even a verbal and collective mental detachment from the system. That's never existed yet. There's never been that kind of uprising yet. So most people want to battle. They want to battle these organizations. That's still directing the energy in the wrong way. Even though, people, they're going to defend themselves. But the point is, we got to get to the root of the problem. The root of the problem is we are still on a plantation, and those creatures, they ain't never set no slaves free. Because they never forfeited the land. They never forfeited that power structure. So they're still operating as the enforcers and the overseers of black people's existence. And that's not right. So we got to get out of here and get into here. You get what I mean?
Now, what we have to do is we have to devise a system or a plan for ourselves. And I said earlier that each one of you is a system. And everything that you do, every thought that you think, either you are supporting white world terror domination by your actions, what you buy, what you wear, where you go, what you eat, how you use your time, You are either supporting the white people in their process of death, or you're for African liberation. It's one or the other. And if we don't use our time wisely, then we are engaging in a form of subtle suicide. Because as I said earlier, their system is still going on. They still have these images on TV that are going on. They're still warehousing our children in the special ed, giving them Ritalin. There are no jobs. We fill in the hospitals. So their system is not stopping. And then finally, I want to say that we need one idea. And we're not thinking about a solution to the problem. We're dealing with all these other things, but these are diversions from the solution to the problem. And we have to start to think about a solution to the problem so that these young brothers and sisters who are here now, who are 15, 16, and 17, are not here 25 years later talking about these same problems. Now, how do I know that the white people know that we are going to come up with a solution to the problem? I know it because they have retina scans, they have what they call racial profiling, DNA banks, and they're monitoring our people to try to prevent the one person from coming up with the one idea. And the one idea is how we are going to exterminate white people, because that, in my estimation, is the only conclusion I have come to. We have to exterminate white people off of the face of the planet to solve this problem. Now, I don't care whether you clap or not, but I'm saying to you that we need to solve this problem because they are going to kill us. And I will leave on that. So we have to just set up our own system and stop playing and get very serious and not be diverted from coming up with a solution to the problem. And the problem on the planet is white people.
Seriously, if you're not white, you're missing out, because this shit is thoroughly good. But let me be clear, by the way, I'm not saying that white people are better. I'm saying that being white is clearly better. Who could even argue? If it was an option, I would re-up every year. Oh yeah, I'll take white again, absolutely. I've been enjoying that. I'm going to stick with white, thank you. Here's how great it is to be white. I could get in a time machine and go to any time, and it would be fucking awesome when I get there. That is exclusively a white privilege. Black people can't fuck with time machines. A black guy in a time machine is like, hey, anything before 1980? No, thank you, I don't want to go. But I can go to any time. The year 2, I don't even know what was happening then. But I know when I get there, welcome, we have a table right here for you, sir. Oh, thank you. Oh, it's lovely here in the year 2. I can go to any time. In the past, I don't want to go to the future and find out what happens to white people, because we're going to pay hard for this shit. You got to know that. We're not going to just fall from number 1 to 2. They're going to hold us down and fuck us in the ass forever. And we totally deserve it. But for now, whee!